absolutely always admired Guy. You know, Guy was a great mover and shaker that had been a DJ in a Scotch St James and those 60s clubs, and been really influential in like turning other people, all the people who were around at that time. He was like, he had his own label, Sue, through Ireland, which is like bringing in all the R&B hits and stuff, and he was playing that stuff to all like the bands at the time, you know, the Who and the Stones and all those groups knew Guy, and the Guy was really an influential catalyst at that time, you know what I mean, bringing the music in. He was like, and like Chuck Berry, he got Chuck Berry out of jail, right? Well, Chuck Berry doesn't even admit that he was in jail, but he was, for like, if you read the stories, you'll find out why. And it was actually Guy that actually got him out, like bailed him out for that time, you know. And so he was like a really influential, like, catalyst to the scene, you know what I mean? And so like when Mott came about, and there was a lot of liked all their early stuff, the covers that they did, you know, the covers that they did that were really great too, you know. I mean, they did Ohio, right, which was Neil Young's song. They used to do that. Darkness, Darkness by the Youngbloods, Long Red by Mountain, and you know, they used to do, which was on Wildlife, it's like the long live track, you know, you keep a knocking but you can't come in, da 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 da, keep a knocking but you can't come in, da 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 da. And that was like a Jerry Lee Lewis, you know what I mean? And that was a Guy influence, because Guy was always like going about Jerry Lee was one of the greatest stars. And so we'd seen Jerry Lee in the London Rock and Roll Show, along with like Little Richard, Bill Haley, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, and Lord Sutch. And we'd sort of been there, and I can't quite remember what year that was. In the
69, I think.
No, 70 something it was, London Rock and Roll Show. You see, it's quite interesting. There's a film of the London Rock and Roll Show that they did at Wembley Stadium. And there's one point where you see Malcolm McLaren on a T-shirt stall, like selling T-shirts and like rock and roll stuff, because they did rock and roll stuff before punk. So it's quite really interesting how it all connects. You know what I mean? Like then 10 years later, I was working with Guy again. Well, I used to always remember we'd go to Mott gigs and you'd see him come in a flurry of mad hair and going in. We used to go, oh wow, you know what I mean, just to see him, like, or something. He was like, I remember reading about them in their first times in the States and that. They were like terrified in New York the first time and stuff, and Guy was with them and he was going, okay, like we were in this cafe and as I read it, and they go, okay, we're going to try and cross the road now. We all had to rush out, and they rushed out and ran across the road like in fright, you know what I mean, and got into another place. And the guy would go, okay, I think it's clear to go now, and we'd all rush across the road, you know what I mean. They were all this, but then we sort of read Ian's book, you know, Diary of a Rock and Roll Star, and that was like really the brochure of the life, you know what I mean. When you read that and you saw them, and in those days you should be able to get old guitars like in old thrift stores and stuff, you know what I mean. You can't do that anymore, but it was like so thrilling, and they brought all the new records back, and we were lucky enough to know them a little bit, you know what I mean, like through like just like slavishly following them, and we got to know them a little bit, and as we got to know them they let us in when they saw us and stuff, you know. I mean, we went everywhere. We went Tunbridge Wells, Welwyn Garden City. We went up to Liverpool, where they played in the middle of the Liverpool arena where they kind of do the boxing, you know what I mean. It was like they played in the middle of the whole thing, and so we used to bunk the trains, and so we didn't have that much money. We had one friend whose dad worked on the railways, and he had like a kind of a pass card, and so we used to pass this card between us, you know what I mean, and a few of us would be like lock ourselves in the bogs again. And then what we would do is we would wait for just our destination, just before as a train was slowing down, we'd all jump off the train and climb over the fence, and that was how we got to the gigs. And then we'd stay there the night wherever we were. We'd sleep on the town hall steps or whatever, you know what I mean. We'd spend all night, and then we'd get back, you know what I mean, the next day. But we would just go anywhere, and that was a fantastic education, you know.